Okay, hello. We are live. Now, let's see if all is working together. It's working well. Okay, hello. The audio is okay. Live. Now, let's see if all is working together. It's working well. There's a little delay, 1 second. Okay. Perfect. Hello. So now the audio should be much better because at the time I was experimenting a setting, but this is much better with the wireless microphone. This way it doesn't capture any background noise, and we can actually hear very nice, in a very good way, the keyboard and the voice. Let's continue this. At that time we arrived up to this point. We read the point 2, so today we read point 3 exactly, and 4, and then there is the original treatise, the translation of the original treatise. That way, let's see the chat live. So Jean-Paul, Ryanair, hello, you are here, so I can see your chat now. Perfect. Let's open the chat in front of me and let's read this. Let's go. So, part 3 of this interesting thing. Systematic exploration of Stölzel's method. 3.1. I would like to return to example 3 since has started already. It represents the earliest systematic explanation of how to compose a bass line to a chorale melody. Okay, it may have already occurred to the reader that there are not that many possible progressions. Okay, with this in mind, I set out to answer the question: how do Stölzel's available bass intervals interact with the available progression of the tabula tradition? What piqued my curiosity in particular was Stölzel's restrictions that the pupil's original chorale melody not make melodic leaps larger than a fourth. The underlying logic of 2 tabulae also applies up to the interval of a fourth. As the fifth, okay, so wait a moment. The underlying logic of the 2 tabulae, so the tabulae we saw at the beginning, also applies up to the interval of a fourth. At the fifth, intervallic pattern reverse. So when you go to the fifth, you know the fifth is inversion of the fourth, as well as the sixth is inversion of the seventh. This is gold. No, this is diamond. Now, 3.2, example 3.2. Catalogs, example 9, catalogs all available 2 voice progression in a major key, modeled in C major. Each staff shows the 6-syllable melodic progression of the chorale by second, third, or fourth, either ascending or descending. Repeated notes in the chorale were not considered. The middle staff begins with Stölzel's default intervals, as shown in example 3. The third staff begins with his alternate interval. Diamond, I said diamond, this is diamond. You see, diamond-shaped note heads represent invalid progression based on the following principles. Yes, this applies to the bass, or better, Stölzel, this German guy Stölzel, starts from a melody. So let's very quickly review what's the principle of this thing. We start from a melody, and how to compose a proper bass to a melody, something like an automatic thing, a table. There are some rules. So the given rules basically are based on these main things. So when you have degree 1 of a key, you have the octave. You can use the octave or the fifth. When you have degree 2, you can use the fifth or the octave. And when you have, for example, degree 1 and 2 in succession, you have to alternate the fifth and the octave. Then, when you have degree 3 of the key, you have the third. Degree 4, you can put the octave of the fifth, diminished fifth, treating the diminished fifth as a consonant, as a consonant instead of a dissonance. This is something that he does. Then degree 5 with the fifth or the octave, and degree 6 and 7 with only the third. This way. Now we are in this table, which is this one. Let's see what's happening. So we have, okay, a comparison between this table, okay, and the chorale. Let's see. This is the table by Stölzel, the given melody. A systematic exploration of the available major key interval progression is Stölzel's method, see example 3, and their interaction with the tabula tradition, example 1. A diamond-shaped note head indicates an invalid progression. Harmonic dies represent two possible melodic progression from the first note. So this diamond shape means not allowed, invalid. Exactly, because otherwise we make parallel fifth. If we have degree 1 and 2, what I've just said, we make parallel fifth. So we have to alternate 8 and 5. Okay, I mean, this is... I don't understand at all why 1 and 4 we cannot put 8. What a stupid thing. parallel octaves. Yes. True. Okay, yes, this is just a table. I mean, a comparison between what Stölzel say and the table. Nothing so special related to that, to Stölzel himself. So, of course, parallel fifth and 8 parallel fifth and 8 progressions are not allowed. Contrary fifth and 8 progressions are allowed. Many times people say, but these are parallel fifth. No, they are contrary motion fifth, so they are okay. Then similar motion to 5 or 8 is allowed when one voice moves by step, okay, especially if you have a semitone. This is very common. No melodic diminished fifth or augmented fourth is allowed in either voice, so basically singing, because it's very harsh. An outer voice diminished fifth need not resolve in any particular way. Okay, see example 8. Let's see the example 8. No, wait. No, an outer voice diminished fifth needs not resolve in any particular way. Okay, so he's talking about that diminished fifth, where there is the end. So, okay. I decided to allow for cross relations, augmented or diminished intervals between consecutive notes in opposite voices. While this would normally be prohibited in a strict two-voice setting, it is assumed that 2 middle voices will eventually be added, resulting in a 4-voice setting. A full texture helps ameliorate cross-relation. Okay, I analyze if each of the resulting valid progressions in example 9. I analyze each of the resulting valid progression in example 9 according to whether they fit the naturalis intervallic pattern or the necessitatis intervallic pattern given in example 1. Watch the previous streaming for ascending and descending motion. An arrow with a solid line indicates the naturalis pattern, a dashed line the necessitatis pattern. The motivation was the hypothesis that Stölzel's method may be based on a sort of tabula for chorales. I expected to find some correlation between Stölzel's method and the tabulae patterns, but they seem not to correlate. Still, the exercise was not in vain. It is interesting to see that of 102 possible progressions, only 84 are valid according to the above prescriptions. Only 80 would be valid if we added Stölzel's prohibition of identical consecutive intervals of all kinds. That is, Stölzel's method as shown in example 3 is not an absolute guarantee that the resulting baseline will be valid if you assume the above mentioned conditions. Okay. Now, chapter 4, before reading the translation of the original book, the original manuscript, I guess. That should be a manuscript. So in this section, we examine two chorales that I harmonized using Stölzel's method. The goal is to model the application of Stölzel's method for use in any today's classroom. The first setting, shown in example 10, uses the chorale Gott des Himmels und der Erde. Okay, so let's play this chorale. This way we can better understand what's going to be explained. So this is the chorale, let's play it. Do, do, re, mi, sol, fa, mi, re, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, sol, fa. I think that there should be a ritornello here. Then, yes. Mi, 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 re, mi, fa, mi, re, mi, fa, sol, la, sol, fa. Okay, good. Now, let's see. Okay, this is the chorale, the harmonization of the chorale. Now, like Stölzel, I began with analyzing the scale degrees of the chorale melody without any concern for common tones between keys. Is there any gradual? No. But I can do this. I can download this image and I can, yes, open this image at the right. So we have both that way. Okay, very good. Tack, much better. No, I want this. Okay, 4.1, wonderful. I began by analyzing the scale degrees of the chorale melody without any concern for common tones between keys. So the analysis is of chorale degrees, of the scale degrees, is what you can see with numbers 1, 2, 3 written above the melody. Like here, degree 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 1, 3, 2, 1. This way you can better see it. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 5, 1, 3, 2, 1, where from this point D means that this section belongs to D major scale. Mi, re, do. Then back to G. 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. Then G major. 3, 3, 2. A minor. So 2, 3, 2, 1. E minor, 1, 2, 3, G major, 2, 3, 2, 1. By classifying, by dividing the melody into these different keys, we can use the different base rules given by Stölzel, the rules we read the other time. Now, interfering from Stölzel's instruction, I took the ends of all phrases to be 1 in their respective keys. So the end of all phrases, that's why. Measures 5, 6 pose the problem since 6th and 7th in the chorale both take a 3rd or 10th in Stölzel's method, which would create parallel 5th and octave after the middle voices are added. So 4 and 5, measures 4 and 5 and 6. So we're talking about this, 5 and 6. Okay. So for the F sharp in the chorale melody, I use a 6-3 chord. The sixth, whenever the chorale melody ascends by an half step, see above. Exactly. Well, in the previous streaming, we read the rules, and we read that we can use the sixth when the chorale melody rises a half step. Semitone, so the sixth is a good solution. The sixth moving to the octave. Right. Okay. When this passage returns in measure 13, here, this time, I chose to interpret this melody tone in the key of E minor to avoid the issue and to create variety. So by interpreting this repetition in E minor, we don't have any more degrees 6, 7, 1 in G major, but 6, 7, 1 in G major become 1, 2, and 3 in E minor. To create variety. Okay, the repeated notes in the chorale in measure 9 here, can also take 6-3 chord, as Stölzel mentioned in the same section, just referenced exactly in the previous episode of this little series. After composing the bass line, I added middle voices in accordance with Stölzel's method. All 3-5 chords with the upper 3 voices in close position, except the 6-3 chords, especially when we have the sixth, of course. Only the consecutive 5-8 progression between measures 2 and 3, so only the consecutive 5-8 progression between measures 2 and 3 is a potential part writing error. This means. On the other hand, this can also be viewed as a change of position within the same harmony, which is why I allowed it. It's saying a potential part of writing error, I mean, according to the rules given by Stölzel. Even though, you know, at the end we have a fifth and an octave, two different intervals. But if we go to check the rules given by Stölzel, of course, we can see that when we have degree 5, let's see, Stölzel wants, no, it's not this picture. Here are the rules. On degree 5, Stölzel's, or the fifth of the octave, and degree 1, the fifth of the octave. So at the end, I don't see what it means with mistake, because we have a fifth followed by an octave. So the alternation works. By the way, okay. Now, example 11. So, okay, now it's talking about example 11. Let's play again this example 10. So, this is the chorale. 8, 5, 3, 5, 8, 3, because we are on degree 3 of D major. 3, 5, 8, 3, 6, 8, 5, 3, 5, 8, 3, 8, 2, 8, 3, 2, 3, 5, 8, 8, contrary motion, octave, so they're okay. 8, 5, 3, 2, 5, 3, 5, 8. Okay, and now with the harmony. Do, re, mi, sol, fa, mi, re, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, sol, fa, mi, re, ni, fa, mi, re, mi, Example 11. Example 11 is a setting of the chorale Herrgott dich loben alle wir. Here I follow the same working strategy as in the previous example. The third phrase avoids a cadence in G major by interpreting the cadence in E minor. The third phrase. As in example 10, the outer voice consecutive perfect intervals in contrary motion 8-8 straddling measures 3-4 were allowed. So let's play this new example. Now we have this chorale. Fa, fa, mi, re, do, fa, sol, la, that way. Fa, fa, mi, re, do, fa, sol, fa, fa, mi, re, do, fa, sol, la, 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 sol, fa, fa, mi, re. Okay, this chromaticism at the end is what sounds a little strange, but let's see what he says. Then, do, re, fa, sol, la, sol, fa, re, mi, fa, sol, mi, ut, re, fa, Walter Piston, I know that you hate this passage, re, fa, but this is so beautiful. Re, fa, it's wonderful. We don't care the fact that Walter Piston doesn't like this. Re, fa, mi, re, Walter Piston really hates me, Okay, now 4.3. One important thing, we have to check the intervals between the bass and the melody. So 1 1 1 and then it's turning to D major. Okay. 8 8 3 5 8 8. Okay, contrary motion octaves are not parallel because they are contrary motion, so they are okay. 8 8 3 5 3 3 8 3. Here we have 3 times the same note. 3 8 3 2 1 2 5 8 8 5 8 8 5 3 5 3 8 5 3 8 5 3 8 2 5 8 3 2 1. Okay, bass may ascend by third or repeat notes in chorale. Okay, where we have these points. Okay, so you can repeat, or it can ascend by thirds. Right, now, neither example 10 or 11 are particularly brilliant. The bass lines are at times what Telemann refers to a timpani harmony. Nevertheless, the settings are competent and thus represent an excellent starting point for beginners. Note especially that the resulting setting is quite different from Johann Sebastian Bach's highly ornate vocal Choralgesange, which are very often held up as historically informed models. Stölzel's setting, along with a whole host of recently surfaced sources, suggests that this type of simpler keyboard-based chorale setting was actually the norm in the 18th century, since it was organists who had to accompany chorale singing in the church service. By restricting the compositional possibilities to such a high degree, Stölzel offers a very practical method that it is easy to implement. Further, it can be incrementally expanded by allowing for more exceptions like 3/6 chords, chromaticism and transitus and syncopatio, dissonances. Stölzel's treatise thus offers a method of chorale harmonization that is at once historically rooted and practicable. Such incorporation of historical teaching methods into present-day curricula offer a promising path forward for pedagogues who wish to continue teaching chorale harmonization. Okay, I agree with this. This can be a starting point to understand how to create a base with consonances. At the end, this is not the final point. This is not the final point for being able to harmonize chorale. This is an important thing, a useful thing that we can learn at the beginning. But I would say that this is not, of course, the arriving point. This is not the arriving point for chorale harmonizations. You have to be able to invent the base with even more complex harmonies, passing tones, and other things. Then, we have part 2 now. And link to the facsimile. Let's see the facsimile if it loads, because the other time it took too much to load. We'll see this later. Okay, and this is the treatise, which actually seems a lot, but is written in both languages, so in the German and then in the Italian way, in the English translation. So it's not at the end so long. Let's start reading this. Stölzel kurzer und gründlicher Unterricht. Brief and thorough instructions. Transcription and translation. Let's start reading this. Okay. Let's see. Brief and thorough instruction on how brief and thorough instructions, okay, this is the beginning, on how a lover of music who understands musical intervals and knows how to notate all the notes can learn in a short time how to compose a contrapunctum simplex, so one-to-one consonant setting without diminutions, but without sixth in 4 voices. So the claim is that it is a method on how to compose a contrapuntum simplex to another choral voice, choral melody, without sixths, so only with thirds, fifths, and octaves. From the Kapellmeister Stölzel in Gotha. Music Our Love. 1. Whoever wishes to make use of this simple method of 4-voice contrapuntum simplex without sixths must first know the modulatory options of the keys. 2. In this, the following rules is useful. All major keys modulate normally to the keys 3, 5, and 6. So basically, for example, let's take C major. In C major, because it's a major key, normally modulates to the key on the 3rd degree, so E minor, which would be very strange from Walter Piston point of view, because Walter Piston says that, you know, it's not a so interesting key, the 3rd degree. But if you think E minor is the minor relative of the 5th degree, so at the end it's not so far from the 5th degree G major. And 6th degree, so A minor. Basically, if we are in C major, we can modulate very easily to E minor, G major, and A minor. Unusually to the 2nd degree, so it's not so common to modulate to D minor, and the 4th degree. It's not so unusually to the 4th degree. I don't know, very strange this, because it is, you know, the 4th degree is very important and it may depend on many factors. I don't trust at all this rule, because, you know, if you think about the Fa super La in C major, Do, Mi, Sol, Sol, La, Fa, Sol, Fa, Mi, Re, flute, especially if with modal melodies, which perfectly fits in the major mode, the major mode. You can go to the fourth degree. The fact that so 3 in lower case means minor and 5 in upper case means major. In contrast, all minor degree keys modulate normally to degree 3. Okay, if we are in A minor, we move to C major. Okay, we agree on the 5th degree. Unusually, okay, so only to 3rd degree it says, so C major and 5th degree E minor. Interesting. Unusually, maybe we have to interpret this unusually like less often than not usually. Less often, maybe. To the so unusually, not so often, maybe. To the 7th, the 4th, and very seldom. Yes, so I agree with that interpretation, because unusually mean because it say very seldom, so rarely to the 6th degree. It means unusually, not so often, okay? Not commonly, not commonly, to the 7th, 4th degree, so not commonly from A minor to G major, and from A minor to D minor, and very seldom to the 6th degree, so F major. Okay, and here is where he's quoting Heineken's, the treatise of the 6th, 17th, 11th. Okay. If he, the pupil, has become proficient in identifying those keys that are necessary for the task, then he can begin to compose a melody, wherein he should observe the following rules. 1. Rule number 1. That the melody may only begin with a 3rd, 5th, or octave, refers to scale degrees. What does it mean? If you want to write a melody in C major, you start with the 3rd, the 5th, or the octave, or C, or E, or G. You don't start a melody in C major with F. If this is possible in the modal tradition, because in the 8th ecclesiastical mode system, especially in Cantus Firmus, the beginning note is not necessarily one of the strong notes of the harmony, of the mode. It may even be another note. And so that's why we may find some interesting other compositions which are based on those melodies where it seems to start in a very strange way. There is an example which comes to my mind. I'll show you. They are the verset by Cabezon. So I show you because I have them here. We are in here because I prepared this material for some videos. So yes. Versillos del tercer tono. So the 3rd tonus should finish in Ala mi re. The 3rd tonus finishes in Ala mi re. That's why the final harmony it's Ala mi re. You see A, in modern terms, A minor, or with the major 3rd. Okay, why? Because the 3rd tonus is where makes the final cadence in Ala mi re. Dixit Dominus Dominum meo sede sac dextris meis, and that's why the 3rd tonus became A minor in the tonal system. But as you can see, these verses tend to start on a note which is very far from A minor or E minor, because the finalis of the antiphon is E, but the finalis of the psalm is Ala mi re. Here it starts with a lip, which is ut fa. So how is this possible? This is possible because le note inizialis, the initial note of the 3rd tonus, may be different, especially if this verset is based on a cantus firmus, where we have the cantus firmus in the first verset here, in the top voice, with the recite tone, which is Ce sol fa ut. Fa, 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 mi, fa, middle cadence, fa, re, fa, mi, re. Or another example here, which is very interesting because we have sol, fa, sol, a cantus firmus. We have the cantus firmus, so there is the tenor in the alto. The tenor, I mean the reciton in the alto. Sol, sol, fa, sol, where we have the transposition of fa, 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 sol, fa, at the 5th degree, fa, sol, and we have at the end a cadence to C sol fa ut, the middle cadence, and then mi, sol, fa, mi, la, mi. As you can see, then the cantus firmus passes to the tenor. The reason why the cantus firmus is on G sol re ut instead of C sol fa ut is because of the vocal register. The cantus can sing that note, so the alto should be down. So fa, 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 sol, fa. Let's see here, fa. Very interesting the fact that the cadence is doing fa, mi, fa. Because in the third tonus we have Dixit Dominus Domino meo, usually, but there may be the possibility that in Spain they did Dixit Dominus Domino meo, sede sa dextris meis. There may be this possibility, this variation, because remember that we don't have an editio typica, so the official edition of Cantus Firmus in the Renaissance. Now, something that can be very interesting is what we read before about contrary motion octaves. This is octave and unison. They are allowed, they are totally allowed, even in that Renaissance style, because they are not direct motion, they are not parallel, but they are contrary. So that's very important to remember. Then the cantus firmus is in the tenor. Fa, fa. I can breath. And then the cantus firmus is in the bass, so it's a very interesting collection of counterpoints, verses. So why are we talking about this? Because we have read that we have to start the chorale, the melody, on degree 1, 3, and 5. Yes, okay, because this is very important in the tonal system, but not so strict in the ancient system, in the modal system, where we can start, as you can see, the beginning of a tonus, of a tone, even in another position, especially the far we go later in the Renaissance. What's this noise? Ah, a car, okay. Okay, then so the melody may only begin with the third degree, 5th degree, or octave degree. Rule number 2, that the melody may only conclude with the octave. So the first degree, if you are in C major, you can only finish with C. Even this in cantus firmus is important too for antiphons and chance to finish on degree 1, the so-called finalis. 3, that pending insignificant reason, no melodic intervals larger than a fourth should be used. But the smaller intervals, namely leaps of a third and fourth, should not be used as often as descending and as ascending and descending steps. So seconds, thirds, fourths, no larger than fourths, besides some particular reasons. For example, we should like to set a melody over a well-known song, so meaning choral text. And here we have the first example. So the well-known song text is Jesus meine zu Vers 6. I don't know if, I mean, my German pronunciation is very bad, but let's do what we can. Fa, and we have this melody. It's very important to be aware of the scale degrees. Now I'll read it with hexachordal solmization. Fa, mi, fa, mi, fa, re, mi, fa, re, mi, la, fa, re, mi, fa, mi, re, ut. So as you can see, re, fa, mi, fa, re, mi, fa, re, I mean, fa, re, we are ending on de, re. Let's see about this, because the melody may only conclude with the octave. But here we are, I guess that we are ending with the fifth degree, the section. No, it's not the entire melody, I agree, but the section is ending on the fifth degree of G major, so D. Okay, then la, la, fa, re, mi, re, ut, G major, degree 1. Then re, mi, fa, sol, fa, mi, re, degree 1 of A minor, mi, fa, sol, la, fa, re, ut, where we have degree 1 of C major. This is the framework. Now, this melody observes the first rule, in that it starts with the octave. So we are starting with the octave. We are in C major, we start with the octave. Or as we will say from now on, in the first degree of C major. The melody modulates in the key of C until the 10th note over the first syllable of the word Heiland, where it modulates to the key of G. 10th note, Heiland. The third note. So it's saying that here, when we have the third note, interesting, the fact that the third note is a mi, in solmization, mi, fa, mi, re, ut, when the modulation point starts, ending on degree 1 of G major. To the key, where it modulates to the key of G major, or to the key of the fifth degree. Over the word was die lange Todesnacht, the melody modulates to A minor, or the sixth degree, after which it remains in the main key. So then, here from the beginning of the third line we are in A minor, and then back to the first degree. Mi, fa, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 1, in scale degrees. Okay, there we are. Now, point number 4. A bass and two middle voices, alto and tenor, shall now be set under this melody. So a bass and then two middle voices, okay, whereby one must determine precisely the scale degrees or all notes were set in the bass. So we have to start by determining the scale degrees in the bass. Thus, one must know what it is common and natural for the first degree of the key to have an octave. One must know that it is common and natural for the first degree of the key to have an octave. So that's why we have to start the melody of our chorale with an octave. Below it, in the bass, the second degree, the fifth, below it. The third degree, the third below it. The fourth degree, again the octave below it. The eighth, recte fifth, okay, degree the fifth below it. So the fifth degree, the fifth. And the sixth degree, once more the third below it. And finally the seventh has the semitone under the fundamental first, degree has the third below it in the bass. This can be seen in the following figures. Okay, so modus in terms of degree of the scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then the bass interval. So the bass counting from the top to the bottom. Degree 1, down an octave. Degree 2, down a fifth. Degree 3, down a third, in that case a tenth. Degree 4, down an octave. Degree 5, down a fifth. Degree 6, down a third. Degree 7, down a third. That way. Since in certain situations one must necessarily deviate from the above arrangement, it is therefore necessary that we draw up a rule concerning it, which can be formulated as follows. The melody tones that have an octave below them, so in this case the first, the fourth, so the first and the fourth, can also have a fifth under them. And those tones for which the bass can have a fifth may also have an octave, but where the third is set, no other option is possible. So basically, where we have the octave, for example, degree 1, we may have degree, so a fifth below. Where we have degree 2 with an octave, with a fifth, we can have degree 2 in order to have an octave this way. We have the third on degree 3, above degree 3, so we can, below degree 3, we cannot change it, no other option. Degree 4, we have an octave, but we can even have a fifth, so the diminished fifth. Degree 5th, we have a fifth, we can even have an octave. And degree 6th, we have a third, so no other option on degree 6th, and no other option below degree 7th. That is. Here it is. The rule is easy enough to remember, but it is nevertheless given again in the following figure. So degree 1, let's do this in another key. Let's take E major. Degree 1, 8th or 5th. Degree 2, 5th or 8th. Degree 3, we can have only the third below. Degree 4, we can have the octave or the fourth or the fifth. Degree 5, we can have the fifth or the octave. Degree 6th, the third below, and degree 7th, the third below. That is. Okay. Now we can compose a bass to the above melody if we merely adhere to the following rule. So now we can compose a bass to the above melody if we merely adhere to the following rule. Two of the same figures, so intervals such as 1, 1, 2.2, 3.3 or 4.4, may not follow consecutively unless the melody repeats its pitch more than once with the same note, with the same bass note. So you can repeat 2 times the same intervals only if the melody repeats its pitch. So 2 of the same intervals, such 2 unisons, 2 seconds, 2 thirds, 2 fourths, no, because it's talking about scale degrees more than intervals, I guess, because, you know, we are not talking about the fact that you can have a second here or 2 thirds. So the only reason why you can repeat the same scale degree in the bass is only so unless the melody repeats its pitch more than once with the same bass note, like and then we see that rule which allows us to take the 6th, for example. Okay, so that's why in the example we saw before there was written that this is considered according to the rules, this is a mistake, because we have degree 5 and degree 1, but we have the same bass interval, bass pitch. So according to the rules, we may change into a fifth, like, you know, another harmony. But if we do that, we do parallel fifth. If we do contrary motion, fifth can be okay. So this is what we should do. At the same time, he says it's a change of the harmony, or we can even think about a modulation from G, from Fa, Mi, Re, Do at the same time. So maybe the transition to another key can make this passage more affordable for the ear. Now, we arrived at this point, okay, so we cannot do that. And now, stylus gravis, best stylus. Okay. And now we return to the melody. Okay, we have our melody. Fa, Mi, 1, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, scale degrees. The seventh notes are now presented as figures in the following way, according to their ordering in the key. 1, 7, 2, 3, 4, 1, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2. Next, the bass is set in the following manner, with these intervals. 8, third, counting from the top to the bottom, 8, fifth, third, octave, fifth. These 8 notes appear thus as degree 3, 1 in C major, then 2 in G major, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1. It was already mentioned above that the key changes when the stepwise note begin on the third note, A. Here. Okay, when the stepwise note begin on the third note, A is changing into G major. Okay. So not on the B, but on A. Okay. Namely, in G major or in the key of the fifth degree. Thus, the 10th note, the third note in the above example, no longer belongs to C major. As a result, it is no longer the 6th degree, but now in the new key it becomes the 2nd degree, and so forth with the remaining notes. Thus, the bass would also be as follows. So we have third, 8, fifth, because this belongs to G major, so it's the 5th degree with a 5th interval. 3, 8, 3, 5, 8. Then we have the third phrase. These 7 notes, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, Fa, Mi, Re. These 7 notes can be described in the key of A minor in the following way. But because the last note of the previous phrase has an octave below it, so the last note we are talking about GG, it has an octave. The octave may not follow again according to the above rule, no parallel perfect intervals even between phrases. Instead, the first pitch of the third phrase can take the 5th instead of the octave, with the rule of interchanging the 5th and the octave we had already seen. And because the following 2nd degree should have a 5th below it, according to the natural arrangement, but now is preceded by a 5th, the 2nd degree can take an octave beneath it. That way. Thus, when the arrangement of bass intervals is made in the natural manner, the bass figures interval appear thus. So the melody is re, mi, fa, sol, fa, mi, re, 5, 8, 3, 8, 3, 5, 8. Good. And the last phrase here. Re, mi, fa, re, do. Because these 7 notes belong again to C major, they appear in this way as degree 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 1, degree 7, and thus the bass intervals would stand below 3, 8, 5, 3, 8, 5, 8, that way. Here one should be aware that notes only accompanied by a third, here one should be aware that notes only accompanied by a third, so degree 3, degree 6 and 7, are very suited to both a change of key. Okay, as well as a return to the main key, which is a significant advantage. So the 3rd degree, the 6th degree and the 7th degree are the notes with which we can do a modulation. Okay. Now we wish to bring our figures in the same row. So we arrive up to this point. So basically here there are the intervals, so what we have just played, but the 4 phrases written with numbers in a row. Then the melody as well as the bass is hidden in the figure in the lower row. Thus, we will now ignore the upper row as through their purpose had been served and we had no more use for them. But in order to show how the melody and the bass are hidden in the mentioned figures, the lower row, it will be necessary to give them both rows in notation. So now the purpose of the melody of the chorale has finished. So what does it mean this? This has a very interesting implication, that when we have a melody and we have to find out a bass to create a bass above that melody, so in any chorale harmonization, if the melody is given, so in the chorale where the melody is given, or if you have to write your own melody, the first thing you have to do is creating a bass. Then the purpose of the melody has finished, which means that when you harmonize a chorale, if it is in the soprano, if it is in the tenor or in the alto, it's enough. You have just to create a bass, and that bass can work in all the positions. If it is in the soprano, so let's do do, let's say that we are in C major, do, re, mi, fa, in G major, do, re, mi, fa, mi, re, do, in the soprano, do, re, mi, fa, mi, re, do, in the alto, do, re, mi, fa, mi, re, do, or in the tenor. So here starting that case with an octave down, do, re, mi, fa, mi, re, do. We have the same bass. When the melody, the chorale, is in the bass, here we may change the harmony because we have to create a melody or a figure bass. Do, do, re, do, re, mi, fa, mi, re, do. So it changes. And then we have the melody in notation. Let's play it. And let's sing the intervals. Singing, yes, we say the intervals, but we sing the bass, because we are counting the intervals from the top to the bottom, which is the same, because the octave is the octave if we count from the bottom to the top, or vice versa. But we created the bass based on a given melody, so that's why we sing the bass. 8, 3, 8, 5, 8, 3, 8, 5, 3, row. Okay. From this, one can set... No. From this, one can see that the figures indicate correctly at all times the interval that is formed by the bass and the discant. Okay, and so in the following streaming, for today is enough, and the following streaming live will continue reading this from point number 12. So, very good, very nice, and see you next time. As you can see, here is very quick because the text is basically half German and half English. So, we have just to continue very quickly and see you next time here. But I have to close the record, I have to stop the streaming. This is not a video, so I have to do